Hello and welcome to Not the GP. 20 drivers, celebrities and content creators from around the world are about to go head to head on one of the fastest street circuits on the Formula One calendar. However, can any of them keep it out of the barriers? Joining me on tonight's show is a man who is actually quite familiar with the barriers around this track. It is, of course, the content creator, Arav. Arav, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello, Hayden. Yes, I'm familiar with the barriers. They can be very tough around Baku. I mean, you've got to be alert on a street circuit, as we all know all too well. So I think this is going to be a really fun one. I think there's going to, we saw carnage at Monaco. I think it's going to be more of the same here today.
Well, we've got another two 25% races ahead of us. If I just look through my notes, we've got short qualifying is back. We had one short qualifying around Monaco, but short quali is back. We're going to have two 25% races once again, with the second one being a reverse grid race for the whole grid, not just 1 to 10 this time. We're back to the whole grid being reversed. Reduced damage, fixed setups, strict corner cutting, and auto ERS. All of the good stuff that is going to set us up for a very tasty Baku race.
Yeah, I mean, it's a street circuit, but it's also a very unique street circuit where we've got these long straights that do invite overtakes and lunges of sort, and also, turns like the Baku Castle section. I mean, it's always very tempting to try something, and I kind of hope that someone does try it just so we can see the carnage ensue. But oh no, maybe that's the entertainer in me. But either way, it's going to be really exciting. Monaco, we saw a lot of overtakes anyway, being Monaco, because it's just the F1 games, the nature of it, and also these lads, we've seen, especially with the real F1 drivers, they kind of got almost a lease of life on the game to just go for moves they might not go for in real life compared to now. So I think we'll just see more of the same today.
Well, the main overtaking spot you've got to say is probably down to turn 1 and then maybe also in towards turn 3. But this is virtually, these guys can do whatever they want. How many are we going to see? Will we potentially see people overtake into the castle section, or at least have a little look to go side by side but might back out of it? Could we see that today?
Yeah, I think already the scenario of maybe someone trying to go around the outside and then maybe having to just back out, but they backed out too late and then going straight into the wall, doing what actually Charles Leclerc did in real life. And he actually did that once on the F1 game when he first started streaming on Twitch, actually, of course, you might remember. So, that's definitely a possibility. But like you said, turns 1, turns 3, there's going to be plenty of not just side-by-side moments, saying 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide down that main straight, because the slingshot is so powerful, the slipstream's so powerful. So we could really well see that.
We could really. We've got some interesting drivers in here today. Joining us was supposed to be Pierre Gasly. I've got to say quickly before we get into it, unfortunately, he's had some technical issues and won't be able to get assistance until tomorrow. So it's sad that we aren't going to have Pierre Gasly. Of course, for you, you've made a lot of videos in the past referring with battles for Pierre Gasly. So that would have been nice for you to commentate over him. But hopefully we can get him in the next race when we go racing. I think it's either Canada or France, whichever's next. But unfortunately, Pierre Gasly won't be on the grid tonight, so we're down to 19 drivers, but we've still got a really tasty grid, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, we've got Lando Norris obviously returning, Leclerc, Latifi. Then got the big hitters from last time. Obviously, James Baldwin's back. He had a great time at the Monaco GP. Obviously, world fastest gamer, repping Veloce Esports. So hoping that he could do well. Maybe Tim Marduk, Ben could actually start the first race. That would be ideal. So hopefully, if he's watching, Ben, please don't Alt F4 out of your game, and maybe you can stay in.
Well, it's going to be interesting for Ben. Indeed, obviously, he had a very interesting race last time out at Monaco. He is going to be doing Baku today. What do you sort of expect from Team at Marduk? Do you know, would he be pushing for the front, midfield, at the back? What are we expecting?
Well, Hayden, you actually did a 100% race with him, of course, very soon. So he's been practicing on heavier fuel with these cars. So maybe he's got some good practice in. So maybe you can get some insight into how that race went for him. But he actually ended up winning that race. I think that was that practice race. So he's pretty nifty around Baku. I think Ben's pretty suited to street circuits. I think he loves the kind of different nature challenge that comes with the street circuit. So I expect him to do well and want to do well, obviously, in race 1, having not done race 1 at Monaco. Obviously, that was a different experience for him, having Lando coach him in that kind of aspect. So I don't know if that dynamic will come back if Lando, unfortunately, has the usual issues he has with the F1 game. We'll see. So there's a lot of different things that have happened before that might reoccur again. And so there might be some deja vu in that kind of sense.
Someone else joining the grid today is former F2 driver Raghunathan. So that's going to be very interesting to see him racing around here today. Do you have any predictions for him? Will we see him pushing it near the front, or will it be a bit of a struggle for him?
I'd like to see a challenge a bit, you know. Let's not be too down on it. I think he'll be able to challenge maybe a little bit here and there. Obviously, like it's Baku, so there's a chance it's just going to be a massive issue at some point for a load of cars. So that might, you know, if you get lucky enough to swoop down the inside of 3 cars that are in a tangle, you never know. So never say never in Formula 1, I guess.
Well, you're going to be in the commentary box for today, so let's see who you're going to be commentating alongside. We've got Ginger Andy back, who's going to be leading the commentary. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very good, Hayden. I'm looking forward to another exciting race around the streets of Baku. We had Monaco 2 weeks ago. Slightly more open racetrack, this one. More chance of overtaking on another street track. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's always a cracker here in Azerbaijan.
So let's talk about the Azerbaijan Circuit. It is a very tricky one because there are so many opportunities where you can break a bit of front wing or possibly even lose a wheel. So let's talk about the circuit.
Well, it's 20 turns, 6 kilometres in length, the second longest in Formula 1. And it's got a real mixture on the racetrack, doesn't it? That first sector, it's so open and wide and it winds its way through some modern buildings. And then that second sector, it's so tight, so narrow. And then you go into the old town of the Baku streets, tight and twisty. And you navigate through the old town and past that iconic castle section. And then it finishes with a 2.2 mile flat out blast across the line, where down into that first corner we will see the majority of overtaking. But yeah, I really enjoy this circuit. It's so unique and a real challenge for the drivers. But as you guys touched on, first corner, turn 3, they're going to be the ideal spots to make a move. But you know, as I've said before, the F1 drivers on the virtual game, they're a lot more opportunistic. They'll go for moves elsewhere. Perhaps into turn 16 we'll see a move. Perhaps into the castle section, as you guys mentioned. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, looking forward to see where the drivers go for those moves.
Talking about the castle section, how difficult is that for a driver? Because you arrive at it completely blind, you cannot see the track ahead of you, and then it is just so narrow, so easy to make a mistake through there. And it's not just a straight line, it's a left, right again. So it's a difficult corner.
Yeah, it's a very difficult corner, Hayden. I'm a commentator, and I can tell you I struggle when I try to play it on the game. I really, really do. I have to use a lot of flashbacks to make sure I get myself around that corner. Yeah, but it's really difficult. I think it's risk reward. It's very difficult. I think you kind of need to be slow in, fast out in that particular section. It's difficult to judge. We've seen in real life the likes of Charles Leclerc get it wrong, and the virtual world, he's got it wrong on both. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can get it right this time. It's certainly a difficult corner and a unique challenge that you don't see anywhere else in Formula 1.
You really don't. Looking at the grid once again, who have you got your eye on for today's race? Who's someone that might not be everyone's first favourite, but could definitely challenge near the front?
Well, I think Raikkonen gets on debut. You know, he's a cult hero. He's a big fan's favourite. Everyone likes to see him out there. He always gives people a lot of excitement and fun. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Dave Gaiman, he's impressed a lot in recent times as well. So, I'm excited to see what he can do. He was third on debut, I think, a couple of weeks ago in Spa. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he could be a real contender around the streets of Baku.
Who else have we got on the grid? We've also got Matthew Gallagher. This time he's joining James Baldwin. Will he be getting any tips from James? Of course, won last time around in the first race at Monaco. So that was also a street circuit. So will he be getting advice from James? Could we potentially see him further up the grid today in Baku?
Well, I'll be hoping to, because he didn't have the best of outings in Monaco. He was 16th in both races. Meanwhile, on his debut in Spa, he was in the points twice. So maybe he got some tips from James Baldwin, and who knows, maybe he'll be able to push back up into the points paying positions like he was in Spa.
Well, it sounds like they're getting the lobby underway with the qualifying session, so we should be handing over to them very soon. But quickly, before we get over to that, Nicholas Latifi, let's talk about him. The only F1 driver we haven't talked about that's on the grid today. He has impressed very early on in these virtual Grand Prix, but can he attempt to push to the front again?
Yeah, I think he'll be hoping to. He came very close in Veloce Versus against Charles Leclerc in the final back at Silverstone. I think it was the second edition of the Veloce Versus series where he just came up short there. So, he's been coming up short quite a few times, been on the podium a lot. He'll be looking to try and get that first victory in the Veloce series, and this is an ideal opportunity for him. We know he's very quick, and we'll have to wait and see what he can do. But here we go. We are ready for qualifying. All the drivers in the garage at the minute, about to head out onto the racetrack, and as you can see, Adam, we've got Charles Leclerc in the bottom left-hand corner getting up and ready for action, isn't he?
Yeah, he's psyching himself up, but he's having a good laugh. I think he's in a chat with Lando Norris and other fellow F1 drivers and content creators, and so they're having a good time, enjoying themselves. They all come out, you can see in the bottom bottom left there, just beside Charles's camera, a load of them coming out. So it's going to be a bit of a traffic jam, looks like, Andy, actually, because pretty much all of them are coming out at the same time. So I think, much like real life around Baku and many street circuits, is going to be a little bit annoying of trying to maybe fill that gap towards the end of the lap, perhaps.
Yeah, interesting. It's certainly a track with lots of straights, and we might even see some drivers trying to do some slipstream tactics. We'll have to wait and see if anyone does indeed do that. But let's have a look then at the drivers. Since we're on board with Jimmy Broadbent, let's start with him. As always in qualifying, we like to run through the drivers. And Jimmy Broadbent, he is a YouTube content creator closing in on 500 subs on YouTube. He's last appeared in the Not the GP series in March, where he finished 8th in both races. So his first appearance in a long time. He'll be looking to try and score some points here today, Arif, won't he?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been out not in our series, but he's done still some more virtual racing on the F1 game. So I think Jimmy's obviously it's not his main domain, the Formula 1 game. So I think he's been getting used to it. Maybe got some tips from Checo Perez. I know he did a little Q&A with him earlier on this week, so maybe got some pointers for him. I'm not too sure, but we'll see. But it's good to see Jimmy back, and obviously it's going to be a nice battle between him, Ben, and Matt, as the kind of YouTubers per se, the big content creators on the grid. And then of course, like you said, his teammate Dave Gaming. Ever since he's come into the Veloce series, really impressed me. I think he's got, been right there for a driver of the day contender for all the events he's been in so far, because he really has surprised us how quick he has been off the get-go, and how, he's just not afraid to make some moves. I remember some lunges he was making at Spa, so very impressed. And like I mentioned before with Hayden, Baku, unlike other street circuits, it is very inviting at turn 1, at turn 2 here that we're going through with Jimmy, and then turn 3 down this second bite, the cherry with DRS. So we'll have to watch on.
Yeah, absolutely. Interested to see how Dave does get on. His best result was third, of course, in that second race at Spa. Hasn't tasted the champagne since then, with the drama of Monaco and the chaos that you often get round there. Maybe that explains that one. But yeah, we're looking to taste the champagne again here in Baku. But let's have a look at the Hatch drivers. And here we have Mahivir Raghunathan out on the racetrack. Let's see how he gets on. He is an Indian racing driver, competed in last season's F2 Championship, a cult hero in the world of motorsport, and a popular addition to the Veloce Not the GP series. Everyone is excited to see how he gets on today, Arif, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be quite fun to see how he gets on with the F1 game. I don't know if he's actually ever tried the F1 game beforehand. I think he's dabbled his hand into some other simulator games with other race events going on. So we'll see how he kind of takes the F1 game. I know it can be quite daunting and different if you're used to other sims, or just a real driver as he is, not used to the sim world or the virtual world with the F1 game. And we'll see. I mean, Baku's going to cause chaos either way. We'll just see if he's going to be involved and be able to get past that curse, like I said, with Hayden, because you can get sometimes quite lucky with that, with it. If there's an incident, just nip down the inside and you could see yourself get some free position. So we'll have to see about that. But yellow flags already around us, so let's see if he's going to get held up on this quali. That's the another issue with qualifying. Unlike Monaco, we had the one shot, whereas this is the short qualifying, full session. So there is going to be that issue of yellow flags cropping up and maybe have to slow down for drivers. So that's the added challenge here.
Yeah, I think it was Billy Monger that was just a little bit off the road there, but I think he's okay. Alongside, of course, Mahivir, we've got Kuru, who is making his debut as we see one of the Alphas making an instant entry into the pit lane there, but it looks like it's all okay. And speaking of Kuru, he's got a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with TRL Limitless, presumably on that pit lane entry, which is a shame. So Kuru, Austrian YouTuber with over 100,000 subs. Let's see how he gets on. But let's see who else is out there on the track. We'll pick up Contrast in, who is also making his debut in the series in the Alfa Romeo. He's an Australian content creator with over 55,000 YouTube subscribers, and he's making his debut. And he's waking up very, very, very early to take part in this, 5 a.m. And maybe you should take a leaf out of TMX Mark's book and move to the UK. Yeah,
that is far too early, Andy. That is way too early. I don't think I could even function at 5 a.m., let alone do a race like this against Formula 1 drivers. And the added caveat, Andy, is he's on a controller as well. So he is repping the controller life here. So he's going to do all the pad users proud, and I'm sure embarrass maybe some wheel users, or they will feel embarrassed they get beaten by him. There's the kind of elitism almost with wheel users around the Formula 1 game. So we'll see how he gets on. I'm really interested to see what his pace is like, because I know he's a very quick driver on the pad, so I think he will be giving some people a run for their money.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. He is teaming up with TRL Limitless, of course, a Veloce content creator with over 112,000 YouTube subscribers. He is an avid league racer and a former esports driver, and he won back in Germany, fending off Charles Leclerc and Tiamat Marek, and what was a great race a few weeks ago now. So let's see how he gets on. But here we are picking up the Red Bull then of De Pilio, who he'll be looking for a good result, having had a fantastic podium last time out in race 2 at Monaco. His best result today. He'll be looking for more of the same here. The French driver first appeared in the German, not the GP series, but without doubt that result in Monaco, he'll be looking to repeat it on the streets of Monaco, Arif.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the consistency, it's all about that, trying to carry it forward from these different events. And we've seen some drivers being able to do that and keep the consistency they've had from the first debut or the first good result they've had. And others have found it a little bit tricky from circuit to circuit. Baku is a different kind of challenge, let's say, to Spa or Monaco. So you've got to kind of wind up, with a different setup potentially, or just the way you go about it. So we'll see how the 2 Red Bull guys do as we now ride on board with Chris Lake. Putting down the DJ decks and getting into an F1 car once again alongside, who is it, Andy? Veloce
Altaf. Yeah, it's the Brazilian YouTuber with over 43,000 subscribers. Finished 17th and 16th on debut in Monaco. I think, it's difficult to judge a driver on how quick they are around Monaco, isn't it? So much can go on, so much can happen around there. So getting a second bite of the cherry here in Baku, again, a street track, but again, much more easier to put a good race together. So let's see how he's on round here. And of course he's teaming up, as you said, with Chris Lake, who performed at last season's Indy 500 alongside the likes of Skrillex and Alesso. So he's a big music producer.
I believe he's in a chat right now whilst they race with James Baldwin. So maybe some weird dynamic teaming here. And he's actually decided to park it up here though. So that's going to be interesting, Andy. That's an interesting tactic. Maybe he's doing a Rosberg there. I don't know. Parking up and trying to cause a yellow flag for his fellow drivers there. Maybe James has told him. I mean, James, where's James on the time? He's only 15th. Was he right on board actually? Speaking of him, he's only 15, so if he's chatting with James right now and has asked him for a favour there of having yellow flag, he's done it at the exact wrong time here as he's still on his flyer. So I was about to say maybe you get some pointers from the world fastest gamer who we're running on board with now in P16, and we're hoping to get right up at the sharp end now.
Yeah, I wonder if there is going to be any tactics, any slipstream tactics. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. Well, speaking of James Baldwin, he took a dominant victory in race 1 last week of the Not the GP, stuck it on pole position and never looked back. A sensational drive there. He is the world's fastest gamer and the 2019 E-Rock champion, a serial winner of the World of Esports. Can he get back to winning ways just like last week here again today? And is that Renault of Chris Lake speeding up? No, it's not. It's Billy Monger. There's Chris Lake there, and James Baldwin blast past them and on to another lap. So he teams up with Matthew Gallagher, the WTF1 presenter and content creator, analyst and commentator for the F1 Esports series. And his best performance today was in Spa. Didn't have a good weekend, as we touched on earlier in Monaco, but he'll be looking to put things right here, won't he, Arif?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he was a little bit upset with how his performance was at Monaco. He was just kind of happy to be there in essence, whereas this time maybe he'll be able to do a little bit more, as we can see. Very, very close there as James just narrowly misses, I think it was Leclerc going a little bit slow on the straight, but he did get a little toe, and that has popped him up to provisional pole position right now, ahead of Cembele Bassi and ahead of Lando Norris in 3rd place, who is still sporting the Halloween helmet. I don't know if Lando knows it's nowhere near Halloween. I guess the lockdown's been going on for so long, Andy. It's going to be Halloween by the time we get out of this lockdown situation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Arif. I don't think I know what day of the week is, let alone what time of the year it is at the minute. But yeah, Lando Norris out there, and it's kind of orange, I suppose. It kind of matches the colour of the car, so maybe that was the reason behind it. We don't know. But of course, Lando Norris, the McLaren F1 driver, he's a keen sim racer with over 460,000 Twitch followers, so I'm sure there are plenty of his followers watching his stream and hoping he can put a good result together. He beat his teammate Tiamat Marek in the final of the first Veloce Versus series, so quite a team dynamic there. 2 big rivals, I suppose, in sim racing. What do you think of Ben's chances this weekend? I think they could be quite close on the racetrack, Arif.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned in the intros with Hayden, Ben, he just generally likes street circuits, I feel. So I think he'll be going well here, and he'll want to make up for only being in one of the races at the not the Monaco GP, and be right up there. At the moment, he's in P6 in terms of the time he's got to gain. There's still a few tenths to find. Lando's going to get a nice toe off this racing point, so let's see what he can maybe do. But both McLarens hoping to be right up there. And obviously, this is now coming after the announcement that Ben is the ambassador for the McLaren Shadow Esports team, so hopefully he'll be wanting to do them proud along with Lando Norris as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully things will go to plan for those two. Just a couple more teams to look at then. Let's have a look at the Ferrari team. Have we got anyone out on the track? In fact, no, we'll go to Williams, in fact, since we've picked them up on the camera. On board then outboard with Nicholas Latifi hitting the wall pretty hard there on his flying lap. The Williams F1 driver, runner-up in last season's F2 series, earned him a spot on the F1 grid. It's just unfortunate for him the way things have worked out with the coronavirus, Adam, isn't it? He's not been able to show what he can do just yet in the real life world of Formula One. But of course, in a month's time, a month to this very weekend, he will finally get that opportunity in Formula One to show what he can do as we go racing in Austria, which is really good for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's. I think everyone's been looking forward to that. But it's funny you mentioned that dynamic of he's going to be a Formula One driver and he's actually yet to have an F1 race, and he's done so many F1 races, quote marks F1 races, virtual F1 races as obviously a Williams F1 driver, but none of it's been on the real track yet. So it's going to be quite cool for him, I'm sure, to finally get down to it. But yeah, I think everyone Formula fan can come together and agree that we are itching to get some real racing on the way. It's been a lot of fun doing these virtual races, and hopefully we can do some more maybe in the future if people have the time, but it's going to be really fun to get back to it on the real things. We now swing on to Jembolik Bassi in second place, looking to maybe try and topple James Baldwin in this qualifying session as he's in P2 at the moment into Toro Rosso. Yeah, well, he's currently just 2 tenths down, and he's going to take a lovely little tow here from, I think it's one of the Haas cars in front of him, so let's see if it's enough to put him onto pole position. In fact, no, he's coming into the pits on this lap. But yeah, Jembolik Bassi, he's been shooting heavily, hasn't he, in recent weeks in the Veloce, not the GP series. He's been involved in so many great battles with Charles Leclerc, hasn't he? And he won, of course, in Belgium in the Not the GP race 1. So yeah, looking forward to potentially seeing him battling on track with this very man here, Charles Leclerc, at some point. Yeah, those two have been joined to the hip pretty much throughout these entire events, which has been amazing for us to really see because they seem very equalised on pace. And at Monaco, maybe it boiled over a little bit there as Shem span Leclerc at the hairpin it was. But, it's all good fun, and we'll see at the moment. Charles has had a very, lacklustre qualifying, let's say. I think he's gotten into a lot of traffic and maybe a few issues on track, as you can see adjusting his headset, and a lot of traffic ahead of him again. So I think he's just gotten very unlucky so far, Andy, with these runs. He's got Karoo ahead of him, and then that was Chris Lake giving up the spot and into the castle section. Oh, once again, more try. I really hope he wasn't on a flyer. If he was, he will be one unhappy F1 driver, I'm sure. Right now, he's down in P18, Andy. I don't know. Maybe is he trying to go for the last question mark challenge? I don't know. I mean, I would rate that if he's going for that challenge. It would be quite tasty to see how far he could come through the field. But I think he'd want to start at the sharp end, at least anywhere near the current front end. So right now, frustration. A lot of traffic ahead, 2 cars ahead of him, and it looks like he's slowing down to try and... I don't really know what his game plan is here, to be honest, Andy.
I'm not too sure if he's got any wing damage. The damage, I think, is set on reduce, so I don't think it should affect him too much, but he's right up behind the back of Kuro. He's going to take that slipstream now, and he should power past down the straight.
He's bump drafting him.
Oh, he's giving him a hand, is he? He's giving him a hand across the line. Interesting tactics, and into the pits does come Charles Leclerc then. So 4 minutes to go. A lot of pressure on him to get a lap on the board then in the closing moments of qualifying. It's so tight around the streets here. And of course, they caught Kuro in the worst possible part of the racetrack you can. At the castle section, you just can't go 2x2 through there. It isn't possible. We should mention, though, his teammate, Noel Miller, closing in on 2 million YouTube subscribers, of course, famously won in the Warzone Gulag with a steering wheel. And he's out there on track as well. Let's see how he gets on. He is 12th in the field at the minute. But let's have a look then at TRL Limitless out on the racetrack at the minute. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, the closing stages of qualifying. At the minute, it is James Baldwin on pole by 2 tenths of a second to Jembolik Bassi in second, as we lose, unfortunately, Billy Monger from the session. Hopefully, he can get back in before the race begins. But TRL Limitless really attacking that car. The back end sliding as he goes through that middle sector, really attacking the castle section, and he's on a pretty good lap at the minute. He's got quite a lot of time to find, though, a full second if he wants to get on terms with James Baldwin.
Yeah, and I think it looks like he's maybe just backed out, as he's pulled to the left-hand side there. So he's going to maybe go again. He's got 3 minutes, so maybe just about enough time. As now we can see Billy there just parked his car. His AI car was unfortunately parked. So Billy will be starting right at the back. But you know what? I fancy Billy. I thought he would do actually pretty decently around here. So I actually peg him to maybe come through the field a little bit, make up some positions. You know, you've got the kind of the content creators and maybe the YouTubers who are not maybe as quick. Maybe I think Billy can get through those guys But JD, yeah, unfortunately has to back out of that and go again with now 2:50 to go. In terms of who's on laps. Plenty of people in the pits, plenty of people coming on their out laps. Then Latifi, I contrast, Lando Norris, Jimmy Broadbent, Charles Leclerc again on another out lap. So hopefully he can put something together. James goes even quicker, that is, with a 1:37 dead, Andy. So there's now a whopping nearly half a second between him and second place. So James is really not hung about, Andy. He's flexed the muscles. Well and truly.
Yeah, he's put a real marker down for the rest to come chasing at, that's for sure. A 37 flat as Matt retires with a decent effort there. He's gone 7th quickest on, I think it was a 38.9. So be at 2 seconds off the pace of James, still up in 7th place, and he'll be relatively satisfied with that. As we pick up Dave Gaming, a man we touched on earlier on in the show, the German content creator, who is really impressed since joining the series. We know he has got decent pace. He's always been featuring in the top 10, and once, of course, on the podium. What has he got up his sleeve today as he makes his way past that wonderful castle section? And I think he's on a warm-up lap at the minute, just getting ready for a quick one. But when we saw Tyrrell Limitless coming into the pit lane, he's going to have a really quick turnaround. 1 minute and 42 to go. It's still showing him as in the pit. So, yeah, there you go. Out lap, just come up now. So it's going to be very, very tight for him to get round in time and find space out of.
Knowing JD, he's timed that to perfection, Andy. He's, done all the count. He's like a robot when it comes to the Formula 1 games. He's so precise when it comes to his driving and everything like that, the way he goes about it. So I'm sure he's timed that, hopefully, to perfection for his sake. As Dave backs out a little bit there through that right-hander. So I think he's maybe going to call it a day for this qualifying session then, with only a minute to go. He's no way he's going to get round again and do another quick lap, so he will be in P9. His teammate Jimmy Broadbent in P11, doing pretty decent, just ahead of Noel, as Lando gets it real close to the wall there and really pushing the limits of his McLaren, swing through the right, taking plenty of curb there to get the best exit possible, building the momentum, and then the slingshot left and right, and then it's pretty much a motorway straight, Andy, down this stretch. Let's see if he's going to improve. I assume he's on a fly, hopefully. You can see his camera in the bottom left, utter concentration, and he's going to no, he's not on the fly, unfortunately. He's not on the fly, so he's going to be P3. But to be fair, the McLarens, I mean, I'm actually surprised, Andy. I don't know about you. I'm a little, they're quite high up, both in tandem, 3-4. They've locked the second row as it stands.
Yeah, McLaren putting on a superb show at the minute in 3rd and 4th. Now, Lando Norris 3rd at best for him as he comes into the pits and retires as we pick up the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. And remember, the pressure is on this man because he has not got a lap time on the board so far. He does seem to have found some clean air though, crucially. And is he going to be able to power himself up towards the front of the field as he makes his way through this flat out section and then into the braking zone towards the end of the lap? So what can Charles Leclerc do? No time set. The only man not to do so apart from Billy Monger, who is not in the race at the minute, and he's cutting corners to try and get round. I hope he's not cutting corners to try and do a quick lap, because that would be quite concerning. But we're going to go away from him now, and we go to TRL Limitless. So as we mentioned, Adam, only just by the skin of his teeth got round to start a flying lap. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty tasty lap there from James, trying to get that extra rotation through the left-hander, then the right down to second gear, then up the gears once again to that left. He's got plenty of flags, like a Christmas tree lighting up around him, so hopefully he doesn't get distracted by that too much. Not hitting the curb on the right, wanting to offset the car a little bit, and then we get towards that castle section. Like I mentioned, you don't want to be going too wide through here, but I kind of secretly hope, Andy, that someone tries it, just for the sake of seeing if they can manage it. I know it's possible with some AI cars, maybe not with two actual drivers, but JD navigating to that pretty decently there. Nice momentum right now. It is James from Chem. You can see in the bottom left, Chem smiling there, so maybe he's just accepted defeat. Yes, he has. The check flag falls, so he's in second place. James is going to be on pole position unless JD can do anything. There's a car in the wall, I think that was, on that camera angle behind JD. I don't know what that was about, as he now swings through the left and then down the straight. Andy, is he going to have enough to do this? I'm not too sure.
Let's see then, TRL Limitless coming towards the end of his lap. I think he'd like to try and get ahead of fellow YouTuber TMF Marek at the very least as they come towards the finish line. The 2.2 mile stretch blasting up towards the line. What has TRL Limitless got up his sleeve? He's 6th fastest at the minute. Up to the line. Can he improve on that 6th place? He can, and he does just nip ahead of TMF Marek and moves up into that 5th place.
Yeah, he'll be very happy with that, and Ben will be kicking himself a little bit with that. So, all in all, though, James Baldwin, I mean, he does what he does best, being the world's fastest gamer, being very, very quick. Obviously, Monaco, he proved how quick he was in race 1. Obviously, race 2 is different with the reverse grid, but again, normal conditions, always, all order is restored for James on pole. I'm sure he'll be looking to do well, but Chem, don't count him out. Even though that time gap was large, the race is different. There could be a dive bomb, there could be slipstream involved. So even though that gap was quite large from James, delta time wise, I think the others behind him can have a good chance today. I mean, everyone will have a good chance because the slipstream is that powerful around this circuit, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. To be fair, it's a fantastic lap. 4:10's clear. I wonder if he got a tow from anyone. We didn't see it out there, but such a big gap to have. But, the slipstream is so powerful in the race as well. The DRS is so powerful. It'll be so difficult to break that. And I think James is going to have a real tough job trying to break that DRS. And I think we could have a similar race to what we've seen before already in the likes of Germany and Spa. A race of overtaking lap after lap after lap after lap and going all the way to the flag, Arif.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there'll be too much action for us to actually keep up on the camera feed and the race director feed. We got the likes. I think Leclerc in the end didn't get a time through then, Andy. No. So he's going to come through the back. We've got Billy Monger also getting through the back as well. So plenty of quick drivers or potential quick drivers. Don't know how fast Billy is going to be, but potentially a lot of quick drivers trying to make their way through as well. And then you've got some surprises in the middle. That mid pack I think was quite a nice eclectic group of people. So I think that's going to be quite fiery, let's say, when it gets to the caster section, when it gets to the end of lap 1 or the end of lap 3 rather, when the DRS gets activated. So we could see some fireworks there with guys maybe out of place and getting a reality check of their race pace compared to their quali pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the midfield's going to be, as exciting as ever. We've seen that as a theme in every single race we've done, not the GP series. The midfield always chopping and changing, always so much action going on. And, despite it being a street track down into that first corner, we will always see action all over the circuit. And I'm just excited to see how Charles Leclerc gets on. How far up through the field can he get? You said, jokingly, I wonder if he wants to do a last to first challenge. Whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to do it, Arif. And I wonder how far he can get up the field. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I remember back to, I think the first race me and you commentated, Andy, the German Grand Prix race where he came back. He was, I think, P4 by the end of lap 2 or 3. He came back very quickly there. So if he can get that right line, like I mentioned before, if there is an incident or if there is a little bit of a kerfuffle between 2-3 cars where they maybe take each other wide, Charles has seemed to be very intelligent, obviously in real life as he is in the virtual world, being switched on, just being able to make that pouncing move to get through and cut through. And so there he is on the bottom of our screen in last place then, P19, and he's got all of it to do. He's on the medium tyres, so he's going to go for a different conscious strategy, so going longer in this race. So you might see him leading the race, actually, by the time everyone else makes their first pit stop, potentially. And the other person, interestingly, is Jimmy. He's in P11, one of the best positions, actually, in a way of, having a free choice of tyres, and he's decided to go on the mediums as well.
Yeah, interesting to see how Jimmy gets on those mediums, the highest placed medium runner, as you mentioned. So, yeah, let's see if he can make his way up for the field. He may even lead the race at some stage, of course, when the top 10 all come into the pits. So, going to be exciting to see how Jimmy does get on. But what about Nicholas Latifi and Lando Norris? They are the two highest of the Formula One drivers, right up behind Shem Bollock-Bassi and James Baldwin. Do you think they can cling on with, as I mentioned, the strength of the DRS, the strength of the slipstream? Do you think that could be a 4, perhaps 5 car with TMA Mark battle all race long? Or do you think the front two might have just too much?
I genuinely, the slipstream is so powerful around it. If they just do enough to keep in that 1 second, they will be effectively pulled along. So if that happens, there might be a bigger pack that's kind of broken away from the main pack, because once you lose the DRS, then it's so tough to keep up with it. So as long as they stay in that 1 second, like we saw Valtteri Bottas, we just saw F1 put a F1 rewind earlier where Valtteri Bottas got Stroll on the line here on the last lap, and in real life, that's how powerful it is. On the game, I can tell you it's very much more than that. So as long as they stick with that, but that's the thing. That's a big if they can have that pace in sector 2, let's say, to actually keep up in the corners, to then have that aid in a straight line. So it's going to be very interesting that kind of way. And then, like I mentioned before, the midfield fight, you've got Tyrrell Limitless with a penalty that was in session. So although he outqualified Ben, he's down in P10. So a lot of quick starters making their way through, and then the top guys, just being there as per usual.
Absolutely. And, turn 1 and turn 2 as well, always tricky around the streets of Baku. I mean, you mentioned that F1 rewind earlier from the 2017 race. We saw both Force Indias colliding at turn 2. We saw Bottas and Raikkonen collide at turn 2 on the opening lap there. Let's see what happens here then, as all the drivers line up on the grid, not the GP here in Baku is about to get underway when those 5 red lights go out and the cars make their move off the grid, and we are go. It's James Baldwin that leads away from pole position. It's a short run down to that turn 1. Is Cimbalik Bassi going to get alongside? No, but Nicholas Latifi is going to get alongside him and perhaps even move right round the outside and up into second place. Looks like it's all clean behind, but on the inside, Cimbalik Bassi holds on as they make their way through turn 2 and begin the run down towards turn 3. James Baldwin already streaking a full second clear on this opening lap, with Cimbalik Bassi second, Nicholas Latifi third, and Tiamat Marduk making a gain on Lando Norris and up into 4th place as they make their way through turn 3, and it looks like they've all got through relatively cleanly so far, Adam.
Oh, and Ben with a sweet move around the outside, trying to get up into P3 on Latifi. Doesn't quite do it. Latifi gets the elbows out there, so the 2 McLarens were side by side through the first few turns, as Latifi and Chen were. Fantastic start there from the Canadian in the Williams car, and a brilliant one from James. I mean, didn't get flustered at all. Already pulled out a 1.6 second gap. Is this man even human? Wow. He really wants it today here in this first Baku race. But now as we go through that car selection, all single file at the moment. Chris Lake down the order, Leclerc up into P13. So already making some good positions up. And your lap number 1, maybe some more to come. And he's already going to come across next to Ranganathan as well in P12. And then Jimmy Broadbent as we now swing through the left-hand. And we cut later on to Eye Contrast in the Alfa Romeo, just ahead of his teammate Terrell Lewis in P9 and P10 respectively.
Yeah, look at that. Incredible stuff from Charles Leclerc. Already up to 12th now. He's got himself ahead of Raghunathan as well now. Yeah, he's flying as we expected. As Eye Contrast then gets up behind the back of the Pilio, and this should be a slam dunk from this kind of range, because this was without even the DRS. The slipstream's so powerful. He's moving alongside already Eye Contrast. He might even pick a toe up from the car in front, which is the Mercedes, as they go side by side across the start-finish line. James Baldwin building that gap out front. As here we go into the first corner. Is he through, perhaps? On the brakes, we won't get to see it. We'll go back to this. Tiamat Marduk then, side by side with his teammate Lando Norris. Lando Norris on the inside and ahead of Tiamat Marduk. Latifi's round. Latifi in the barrier, and Norris is involved in this, all concentrating up there in the braking zone, and that's what can happen at Baku on a street track. If someone goes for a spin, they'll all pile in, and that's exactly what's happened, Arif.
Oh, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc way down. Oh, Leclerc's going to be so annoyed with that. He had recovered up into P12 and Lando stuffed it for him because he's down to P13 now. Lando Norris P16. It looks like Latifi also caught up in that. So all the Formula 1 lads, you're real F1 drivers. Why have you got caught up in incidents? I just want to point that out. They've all got caught up and all the gamers are fine. We've got James Baldwin, Cimbalik Bassi, Tiamat Marduk, Dave Gaming, Matty G in P5. What is he doing there? Fabulous stuff. Tyrrell Lewis in P6, Eye Contrast, Jimmy, Depiello, and Roche Alta. There's not a single real driver in the top 10. They've been absolutely had their pants down here, Andy.
Unbelievable. What an unbelievable turn of events down at turn 2. We touched on it at the start of the race, didn't we? We always get action at turn 2 in the early laps, and that's exactly what's happened. All three, well, Leclerc, Norris, and Latifi all coming to grief at the second turn. Matty G up in 5th. He must have a nosebleed. He's that high up the order. Unbelievable stuff. He's having a great day here in Baku, and he's got a real chance of bettering his best ever result, which we saw back in Belgium, as Jimmy Broadbent is under pressure from Depiello, so is right up behind him. So here comes Depiello, side by side. Jimmy Broadbent, remember, on those medium tyres, so he won't want to fight this too much, as DRS is now enabled, and Depiello in the Red Bull charges past, I think, and surely up into 8th place.
Andy, right now, for a split second there, Ranganathan is still the highest placed real driver in this race.
Go on, Ranganathan.
Dominating this in terms of the real drivers. Let's just take that in. That is quite something indeed. He's P10. Lando Norris is retired from the Grand Prix. You know what? Give him an F1 drive at this stage. I mean, he's leading the pack. Right? He's seeing to them.
You've took the words out of my mouth. Go on, Raghunathan. Absolutely brilliant job so far from him, as we pick up Dave Gaming in 5th position, hunting down TRL Limitless. And Dave Gaming is so quick. He's such a great driver. And of course, he was an unknown quantity. We didn't know much about him when he first entered the series. And well, he's now taking it to TRL Limitless, so we all know plenty about. So there is Charles Leclerc. Of course, we've lost Lando Norris, we've lost Chris Lake from the race, and Billy Monger never got started. But here is Leclerc in 15th place, trying to fight his way back up through. Next up on his radar is none other than fellow F1 driver Nicholas Latifi. Things not going to plan at all for the Formula 1 drivers.
sentence I didn't think I'd be saying today is the two Formula 1 drivers are fighting for the wooden spoon as it stands for P14. Well, not fully, Lebusset is obviously there in P16. He got caught up massively in the incident. He's 20 seconds back, but still, not what I expected. At the moment, Noel Miller is the lead Ferrari, so he'll be very chuffed with that. I'm sure Noel, absolute legend of the YouTube game, but right now seeing to his Formula 1 driver teammate who's trying to close up to Latifi here, and I've just realised now the dynamic between the McLaren drivers once again as Leclerc gets very out of hand with the oversteers. James pits early from first place, so he's gone early on that pit stop, so looking to maybe get some clean air here. I was about to say though, Andy, the dynamic once again for the McLaren drivers is Lando will be able to be Ben's engineer, so don't be surprised if Ben closes up to cars, if he goes for some massive dive bombs. So I'm sure, watching Lando be a race engineer, he pretty much just says send it every corner, so I'm sure Ben will be going for it if he does meet some cars, whereas James now, unfortunately, his plan hasn't gone to complete work. He's having to overtake Jimmy down the inside, but like you said, Andy, Jimmy being on a counter strategy doesn't put up much of a fight, and so James is in somewhat clean air. He's got eye contrast up ahead, but he's P5 having made a pit stop in a 25% race. That is insane, as we now see Latifi v Leclerc, and
that was like it was Latifi against Noel, but Leclerc says I'm just going to join in as well and dive down the inside of my teammate. Oh, and the two Ferraris, they've come together down at turn 2, and Uncle Noel is back in front of Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc got ahead of Noel.
I think Noel just tried to send Charles to the gulag as he put him in the wall.
Well, he's Leclerc's now back through again. So Leclerc 14th, Noel in 15th. It's got a feel of the reverse race already in the first race. This is not the reverse race, but all the top drivers down at the back of the field. But here is Tyrrell Limitless in 7th place at the minute, all on his own. And he's got Veloce Dada and Alta behind him in 8th place. So the Brazilian YouTuber in the Renault hunting him down as James Baldwin, as you can see on the left-hand side of your timing ladder, has got ahead of eye contrast somewhere on the racetrack. So he's not lost too much time there, and you think things are looking good for him in his battle against Shembolic Bassi. As we look at Matty, and he been overtaken by Rakunathan? Oh, he's going side by side with Rakunathan, and he's down the inside.
He's on the mediums. And he's made a great move down the inside. So Matt trying to get through. He's pit early with James. So you know what? I said it, being teammates with James Baldwin, I think it's, rubs off on you having such a quick teammate, because Matt's doing a stunning job. Fair play to him. Bottom left, concentrating real hard. He's overtaken Ragnathan up into P10. Now he's got some decent clean air, but maybe the Haas might just come back. But he's on the softs, so he continues on for now. So Ragnathan going longer on that stint. He's got back past Matt as Matt tries to maybe go back down the inside. Doesn't work out. And Tyrrell Limitless has unfortunately left this session. Some technical issues for him, and so he'll be going down the order, unfortunately, Andy. As we now watch on Chem v Jimmy. Jimmy trying to hold up Chem as much as he can. Chem will not be happy with this because, of course, he's trying to catch up to James Baldwin. Will there be a move to the inside? It's a big dive, and Jimmer, he's not going to put up too much of a fight. Fair play. He doesn't need to. He's on a different strategy. So Chem, order is restored. 1-2 for James and Chem. So the two, esports drivers in a world of their own. Not surprising, but can Chem do anything to close up to James? Because it looks like James just has some unworldly pace today. And as you can see in the bottom left, Lando is speaking. I'm sure he's giving Tim Mardick all the helping hand he can.
Yeah, great move there from Shembolic Bassi. I mentioned that James Baldwin caught the cars in the right area of the racetrack. He got ahead of Jimmy Broadbent into turn 3, so he caught him in the perfect area. Shembolic Bassi did not, but he still did well to make that move, get it done just before the castle section in an unlikely overtaking place. So good stuff there from Shembolic Bassi. Was 2.6 back, he's now 2.4 back. It's going to be asking an awful lot. That might not seem like a lot, 2.3 seconds, but when these two drivers are so evenly matched, it is so difficult to reel that gap in. As we look at this battle, look at this, De Pilio and Rakunathan going side by side, and maybe even Latifi getting involved as well. Latifi on the inside of Rakunathan, and he's through and up into 11th place. Latifi on the recovery drive. So De Pilio and Latifi blast past Rakunathan into the braking zone, and Rakunathan loses 2 places in one corner there.
Latifi's now the lead real driver, so just update you. Maybe he can keep his job in Formula 1. I don't know about the others. We'll have to see how that goes in terms of the review process. But we now move back to James in a world of his own in P1. 2.2 the gap is. Jimmy doing well in P3, but I'm trying to see really the time gaps. I reckon Jimmy could slot in around where Matt is, I think. So I think those two might meet each other on track, looking at the time gaps, trying to do a rough calculation where it would be. Tyrrell Limitless, we know he disconnected, so I think it's AI right now now is driving around in P5, so that might be another free position Jimmy can hope to get as we now move on to the Rano, the Brazilian YouTuber, in P11 ahead of Kuru, and then Ragnathan's gone down the order with the pit stop he's made. But still, I think he's going to end up being ahead of Leclerc. So Leclerc is going to have to overtake him, as well as Noel down the order in P16. Although this does work out for the reverse grid. Remember, Andy, it's a full reverse grid this time. So Lando will be in second place on the front row. And if Charles does not make up any more positions, he'll be on the second row with his teammate. So it's not all bad, I guess, for the second race, as now we're watching Latifi on the Red Bull down the inside. Oh, looking rather slow, pedestrian-like, actually, I must say. But he gets the job done down the inside and gets the Red Bull just before that castle sling, very close to the wall, Andy, there on the right, flirting with that wall.
Yeah, both drivers really pushing it through there, and Latifi especially right up against the barrier. But it's another lovely move, just as we've seen earlier on from Shambolic Bassi. That is one of the corners where you maybe wouldn't expect it, that you can make a move, and that's exactly what Latifi's done. He's made it move, made it stick onto Paleo, and he's up now into 9th place as Matt has overtaken TRL Limitless's AI car, having disconnected, which is a shame, of course, for TRL Limitless. So 7 laps gone out of 13. It's James Baldwin in the lead. The gap hovering at around that 2.2, 2.1 second mark. As I said, so difficult to reel that in. I think the big question here at the minute is, where is Jimmy Broadbent going to return into the field? As we keep an eye on this, though, De Pelio is coming straight back at Nicholas Latifi. All that lovely work, great move from Latifi, undone, and De Pelio is straight back through, up the inside, in the slipstream, and he retakes that place. Back up into 9th place as Leclerc now retires, but De Pelio goes a little bit deep, and Latifi says, thank you very much, I'll go straight back through and take 9th place away.
Yeah, big mistake there in turn one. Easy to do. I mean, it's such a harsh break zone, and these two might be yo-yoing back and forth. But yeah, Leclerc retires. Maybe he's at a tactical retirement potentially. Make sure he gets to the front of the field for the second race. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something's gone wrong for him, but that is going to now solidify him on the second row and third place. So maybe with a bit of clean air, Andy, they can actually navigate Baku properly in the second race. We now can't eye contrast. Like I said, debut in the Veloce series and doing a great job on a controller in P6, repping the pad life here and doing a fantastic job, Andy, as he does it in P6. Ahead of Matt, his teammate now not in the race, but ahead of an F1 driver, Nicholas Latifi. So he'll be loving life.
And for some of our viewers that might not be familiar with the Formula 1 game, Arif, how much more difficult or how much harder would you say it is on the pad? Would you say there's quite a difference in lap time as well between the pad and the controller?
I mean, it depends on the skill level. I know Eye Contrast is a very skilled pad user, so he's a very quick one. But in theory, the wheel does have a larger, there's more to learn from being on a wheel. So even though maybe you can pick up a controller and play a little bit easier, there's much more to gain on a wheel eventually when you get to the sharp end, where the esports drivers are. So it's difficult to pick up. Don't get me wrong, it's very difficult to be quick on a controller, but at the same time, the ceiling is maybe a little bit lower in terms of where you're going to get to. But that kind of just shows how good Eye Contrast is on the controller, that he is at that ceiling probably. He's on the level of one of the fastest out there. And there is Noel in the wall as well. So both Ferraris have had a horrible day at Baku. They've all seen red. Lebusse's also retired. So it's a lot of people have had issues around Baku. So compared to Monaco, Baku's a bit more open, but they've had way more issues at Baku. So who would have thought?
Yeah, which is, strange sometimes to see, but, I have seen in real life in Baku that it's claimed many cars, hasn't it? So, maybe we shouldn't be too surprised, but, that's just the way it goes sometimes, and it's a shame to see so many cars out of the race, but maybe that reverse grid, as you touched on earlier, maybe playing on some people's minds. We'll have to wait and see. But here is Shambolic Bassi, who really has sliced and diced that gap down to 1.3 seconds. Well, the Turkish driver is roaring back into the battle, and I suppose this is as close as it gets to a home Grand Prix for him. We used to have the Turkish Grand Prix on the Formula 1 calendar, but obviously Azerbaijan geographically is quite close to Turkey. That's probably the closest it gets to home GP for him. So 1.3 back, reeling him in, and who knows, Arif, we think we might just get a showdown after all.
Perhaps. He's looking very, very quick, flying the solo flag for Toro Rosso today. Unfortunately, Pierre Gasly, the AlphaTauri F1 driver, was meant to come in, but he's had some PC issues last minute, so unfortunately he is not able to come in. That's what we apparently say. Perhaps some others might say that I unplugged his PC after F1 My Driver shenanigans. We'll never know, really, but he's the man flying solo for Toro Rosso. And like like you say, Andy, I'm actually really surprised. This has gone under the radar. He's really cut this time. Like, he's gained 3/10 on this lap alone. So, he is really coming at James at rating was. Maybe James just relaxed a little bit too much, having had that gap, and now he's got to switch back on, maybe. But yeah, I mean, Andy, we've got 4 laps to go. So this is going to heat up. It's now under 1 second. So he's got that DRS. He can hold this. So we know how powerful the DRS is around here. The slipstream alone without DRS. So I think watch on. We hopefully stay on with this for the entire lap, because we're basically just watch him close up, and come that last sector, Andy, it's going to all kick off, I hope, because now we go down to 8.5 tenths. He's reeling him in.
There's no doubt about it. He is now there, Arif. There's no doubt about it. This is going to go all the way to the flag now. I fully expect these guys to be jostling for position and swapping lap after lap. We see it so often when the drivers do league races around here. But you've got to credit Chembolic Bassi for closing this gap, and it's so impressive to close a gap against a driver of this caliber. Remember, James Baldwin, the E-Rock champion. He's won so much in the world of esports, but now he's about to be prey to Chembolic Bassi, because here comes the Toro Rosso into the slipstream. He looks left, he looks right, he goes down the outside, and he's going to breeze past the Mercedes and up into the lead of the race. But James now will pick up the toe, and he'll try and come straight back at him. Bolic Bassi, to rub salt in the wound, sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well, and holds the lead through the first corner. He now leads Baldwin down to second, and you've got to admire the comeback from Chembolic Bassi in this race, having had a bit of a slow start and dropping off in the opening exchanges. He's came right back, but now look at Baldwin coming straight back again, and Bolic Bassi on the outside into turn 3. Is he going to brake later? Yes, he is, and he's through and back into the lead of the race, and this is going to continue on to the end. Arif, this is what we love to see.
I was wincing at that camera angle, Andy, there, because you really didn't see where Chem was in that blind spot. I thought, don't turn in, but he's done it, and he's pulled it through. But this is now the battle we're hoping for, the sharp end. Forget the real drivers. The esports drivers are giving us the fight we wanted at Baku, at the forefront here between P1 and P2. And like before, at Baku, it's so easy to yo-yo back and forth when you're basically connected at the hip with DRS. You're just DRSing each other, slipstreaming each other every single straight. It happens every single time you have this race on the F1 game. So I think it's going on right to the end, and we've got 3 whole laps to keep on watching on. So it's Chem in second place. It's going to be another one, like we've had a few times, Andy, where it's going to be a bit of tactical play, maybe, wanting to be second at this very point in the circuit, perhaps, on the last lap. Because like we saw with the F1 Rewind on the F1 channel earlier today, Bottas, v Stroll, you can do that on the line and we saw in F1 Esports, actually, 2017, remember, it was. So with Freddie Ravnason, v Brendan Lee. So it's going to be very tactical as we now watch Chem go on and rocket towards James Baldwin. Where's he going to go? On the outside. James goes on the left to defend, but he's not going to defend too much. Going to tuck in for the slipstream on the next straight. Remember, after turn 2, Chem into first place, but now James will get the DRS for the second time as Tyrrell has rejoined the race, and his AI is actually in P8, so fair play. He's actually played that quite well. Still going to finish quite high up here in this Grand Prix. Chem goes defensive, Andy, on the left, then to the right. Where's James going to go? To the inside. Will he make the dive down the inside? He's got the nose in lock up. It's very, very fine margins there as they're so close to the wall, so close to each other, and James going the long way round now. Chem gets the elbows out. They're still neck and neck towards left-hander. James now with a big dive bomb. Elbows out. Chem's got to give up. Yes, he does. Bravo there as Andy claps in the comm boxes. What wonderful, wonderful, respectful racing between 2 esport driver elites. And we cut onto a fight now between iContrast and Jimmy.
Yeah, well, Jimmy made his pit stop a few laps ago, came out in 6th place. He's now trying to charge back through, and the first man on his radar is iContrast, but he's unable to do it yet. But let's just touch on that. How good was that racing there from James and Chembolic Bassi? I've got to say, Anne, if you were wincing on the previous lap down into turn 3, I was wincing even more this time right now, I can tell you. They were rubbing wheels side by side through there. Great stuff, and well done to James for getting back through there, because I didn't think it was on, but he'd done it. But I'm sure that's going to continue for yet another lap. And another thing we should mention, you mentioned about getting up to the line. We saw that on that last lap when they went to the line. We're going to see it again. Is he going to get ahead before the finish line? Because that on the last lap is going to be so key, and he is going to get ahead before the finish line. So that is going to be so tactical in the closing moment. So here comes Chembolic Bassi straight back through, up into the lead, but James Baldwin is coming straight back alongside again on the run down to turn 1. Who's going to break the latest? Chembolic Bassi holds on to the lead for now and gets himself up into P1, but James Baldwin, as we've seen on the previous lap, is likely to come straight back at him. It's just going to be a role reversal. So out of turn 2 they come, and James Baldwin tucks himself into the slipstream behind that Toro Rosso, the Mercedes engine singing as he pulls alongside to the outside. Is he going to get the job done into the braking zone? He is going to get the job done. He's back through on lap 12 out of 13 ahead of Cimbalik Bassi, who drops to second. Tiamat Marek a long way back in third, Dave Gaming fourth, and Jimmy and I contrast still battling over fifth and second. I think Jimmy might have finally got himself ahead. This is going to be so tactical, Arif.
Yeah, it's going to be, they're going to have to play this like chess, like I've said many times before as well, with how it is with the F1 game. A lap and a half to go. James in first place again. So James is finding himself the one being chased a lot often. So I think hopefully James has learned now onto the last lap. Honestly, you might want to just stick behind him for sector 2 and wait till sector 3. But then, like you said, Andy, there's that question of if you can actually pull alongside and get that time enough to get the job done. Meanwhile, like you said, also, Jimmy has finally got eye contrast on the fresh, the soft tyres. Jimmy doing a fantastic job in P5. I mean, Racing Point, that's as a team doing really great. P4, P5, you know, really made up for it. Latifi, the only F1 driver left in this in P7. So eye contrast, we're very happy with that. You know, even if he's been overtaken by Jimmy. As we now move back to this fight, though, between Jem and James onto the last lap of the Grand Prix, and Jem with the DRS. James is going to be defenseless here, but to be honest, I think this is the better place to be if he gets overtaken by Jem, because he can stick behind and maybe make this similar move onto this very stretch on the last lap as the Turkish driver is up into first place in the Toro Rosso. James once again is going to be right up the back of him through the next left-hander on turn 2, and he's going to get DRS for himself. But now, let's see. Will he play this tactically? Will he not? Is he going to overtake him and just have the track position, or will he play this tactically? Go to the inside. They're going to be neck and neck once again, and Chem is the one that doesn't really put up. I honestly think that's Chem not putting up a fight because he knows he wants to go for it now, Andy.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that James Baldwin went for it, Arif. You know, like yourself there, it was all that was a key moment in the race and in this battle. Is he going to go for it? Is he not? It's a game of chess, and in the end, James Baldwin decided to make the move. But will he try and let Chem through earlier on in the straight to come straight back at him? That might happen. We'll have to wait and see. But we are now on the final lap. It's going to be a tactical battle, as Arif mentioned earlier. It happened in F1 Rewind, if you were watching earlier, in real life in 2017. When Stroll and Bottas went side by side. It happened with Freddie Rasmussen in the F1 Esports series. Is it going to happen side by side across the line on the final lap of the Veloce, not the GP, here in Baku? We'll find out on this final lap as James Baldwin, for now, is still in front of Cimbalik Bassi. Into the final real corner on the racetrack of turn 16. The final 3 turns are flat out to the line. The 2.2 kilometre sprint begins here. And at the minute, James Baldwin is still holding on to the lead of the race, but here he comes. Here comes Cimbalik Bassi, the Turkish driver, with all his Turkish fans behind him. He's going to try and pull alongside James Baldwin. It's going to be right to the line, but he's got the run. He's got the lead, surely. He's got the victory. Cimbalik Bassi wins the tactical battle with James Baldwin and out drags the Mercedes to the line and takes a brilliant win out of. Great watch, great stuff.
Did I say it or did I say it? I said it. You know, you have to be behind. I hope we get into James at the end of this event. I want to question his thoughts behind overtaking him. You know, not to be too harsh on him, but I feel like it was the obvious move to be in second place. Chem's played that to a T. Obviously, though, Chem's been there in F1 Esports before, so maybe that's something you pick up with being in the Esports Series before. James, obviously, an avid Esports driver, but he's never been in the F1 Esports Pro Series yet. So maybe that's something that he just hasn't picked up of. I should definitely just be behind, even if it's illogical a little bit. It's the F1 game that seems so powerful, so it's just better to be behind. Tim Mardik, brilliant podium. He'll be very happy. I'm sure his Lando engineer gave him a great congratulatory message at the end of that race. David in P4, Jimmy in P5. Racing Point will be very happy. And Eye Contrast debut in this series, the controller in P6 ahead of Latifi, and we've seen Leclerc and Lando out, so he'll be very happy with that. And Matty doing a decent job, I would say, in P8, to be fair to him. And Ranganathan in P11 just missed out at the points there, Andy. But I think he's done himself very proud in P11, to be honest. Beaten Lando, he's beaten Charles. He's done himself proud. He can be happy with that result. I think it's one of his first times in the F1 game, so decent job.
Yeah, fair play to him, fair play to him. Just unfortunate and unable to get into the points as Kuru rounds off the field in 13, so no points for either Haas cars, but, pardon me. But Matt there, he finished 8th in the end, but I think he actually had to make 2 pit stops, Arif, so...
Perhaps, yeah.
go to plan for him. I think he must have got involved in some kind of contact. But, great battle in the end at the front, because I don't think we were expecting it when the gap was around 2.5 seconds. I think Cem, just for closing that gap in, deserves a credit and deserves a victory, because, to close that kind of gap in against someone of that quality is very impressive.
Yeah, I was very surprised actually when you mentioned it and brought it up. I was actually taken aback. Like, oh wow, I thought James was dry and gone, and he had got that race win in the bag. But Cem relentless, cutting that, especially on that lap where he got the DRS first, Andy. Like the way he caught, I think it was 1.22 down to 7/10 pretty much in one lap. Then, like at that point, I think James had maybe a little chink in his armor of like, okay, I'm being caught here, I'm feeling the pressure, and then Cem just really turned the screw, and then like we saw, it was just back and forth, and it was playing chess on the F1 stage, and Cem played the much better game, and he got the checkmate right at the end.
Yeah, it was great stuff. It was great to watch. Special mention as well to the likes of Jimmy Broadbent, teammate Mark on the podium. Hayden, you were watching that one. It was an exciting race. What did you make of it? Who was your driver of the day?
Oh, what an exciting race. A great battle between the likes of James Baldwin and also Cem Bulabasi. They're definitely a shout for driver of the day. I think teammate Marduk definitely in there as well. Third position, Jimmy Broadbent, though, 11th in qualifying. Has always sort of struggled on the F1 game, but it looks like now he's really starting to show his pace. I mean, Eye Contrast is not a slow driver. He's not a slouch at all. So to beat him as well is a fantastic result. So do you know what? I'm going to give it to Jimmy Broadbent for that first race as my driver of the day. But Arav, we're getting ready for race number 2. It's a reverse grid race. We've seen 2 F1 drivers crash out. Is that tactics to put them near the front of the grid for the next race?
I don't think Lando's exit was. I think the crash he had with Latifi was just it was a weird incident because the camera angle was very hard for us to tell what exactly happened through turn 2. That was actually a corner that I have a crash with in Veloce Squad Sprint, actually. So I know how difficult that corner can be, maybe, in terms of tightening up. So that was unfortunate for them. And obviously Leclerc was up to P11 at that point. So it wasn't tactical at that point. But then afterwards, I think they maybe just thought, okay, let's retire. Let's get the better grid slot. Being the F1 drivers, they are competitive nature. They're thinking about the second race straight away already. So they're going to have a good chance now to do well. Let's hope they don't stuff it up for the second race. They've got a great platform now to actually have a decent race from the second one, because you've got the likes of James, Cem, Ben having to now make their way through the field because we've got a full reverse grid, unlike Monaco where it was just the top 10.
Well, you mentioned James and Cem. Obviously, they're starting right at the back of the field now, going into the next race. This is a track where it's safe to say it's quite an easy one to overtake at with that long straight.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, it's a great place to overtake. The slipstream's great in real life, as we've seen many times, but in the game it's just accelerated because there's just a little bit less dirty air really than with the slipstream's a little bit more powerful. And we saw it with Cem and James. You can just yo-yo about. So that might be interesting actually if Lando and the likes of Charles, if they're battling too much maybe at the front, that might also be another factor that they actually might slow each other down and then invite the esports drivers to come pouncing in. So that's another dynamic that we might see in race 2 as well.
We didn't see any huge collisions at the castle section. I don't think anyone actually got caught out in the castle section, which is really surprising. I think maybe Noel Miller at the start, because I saw him drop down quite a lot of positions, but I think he was the only one that got caught out in that period. We're hoping for a pile-up, surely. Come on.
Yeah, I was surprised there wasn't, to be honest, because it's the F1 game. It's online as well. And you just feel like, I'm just tempted to send one in. Maybe race 2. It's now for the esports drivers. They're at the back, so they might have that more, attacker instinct of wanting to go for the move. So one of them might just try it down the inside or not. Maybe maybe they're all just good drivers, all right? And they just don't want to have a crash at the castle section. Maybe we need to stop willing it into existence. I mean, we saw a crash at turn 2 anyway, so maybe that was enough to quench the thirst, maybe, Hayden.
Just because we crash at the castle section doesn't mean everyone else will. We've got a tweet come in. This is from @Coolbard, and he seems to agree with me. Jimmy, driver of the day, P11 to P5, an absolutely fantastic result, and a great result as well for the Racing Point boys. Dave Gaiman, we know he is quick. It was like a P4 and a 3rd position in Spa. I think he struggled a little bit in Monaco with it being so crazy, but again, showing that he can put his name right near the front of the grid.
Yeah, I mean, it's the entire series. Veloce has been a great platform to show, what you can do at times and just, be a hero of the day, essentially. And so maybe we'll see those same heroes again in race number 2 or some different ones. Obviously, it's been a bit of a pattern here with James and Cem. But like you said, Hayden, before, with Jimmy improving so much, he's kind of someone who's maybe not taken to the F1 game before, but it showed real good prowess in that first race. So let's just see who's going to make a name for themselves then in race 2, whether it be for a good race or maybe that crash with longing for.
It was his debut in today's race for Raikkonen. So it wasn't too bad for him. P11 at the end of the race. He was battling with the likes of the F1 drivers, not really making mistakes that people expected him to do as his culture of racing, sort of, his fan favourite. That's why everyone sort of loves him, because of a few incidents here or there, like the Pastor Maldonado sort of aspect. So he didn't really do that in the race. A lot of people might have been disappointed, but showed that he does have the pace. He was surprisingly quick for a lot of people.
I was surprised at how quick he was. I'm not sure how many times he's played the F1 game before, so I was quite surprised there. But like you said, Hayden, yeah, he's got that cult following for some very fun incidents. So we're maybe going to see that potential in the F1 game play out. Didn't happen, but race 2 is still with us, so we'll see about that. But like I said early on, to be honest, he kind of embarrassed the actual F1 drivers because he finished above 2 of them. So he's actually done really decently. So fair play to him.
He really did. He's going to be starting, I think, P9 going into the reverse grid race. So a good chance, but he's in the mid-pack. Being in the mid-pack is quite dangerous, especially with that such a short run down in towards turn 1. It's very easy to get caught up with a few other drivers, as we saw a few come together near the midfield area.
Well, yeah, that's exactly where Charles got caught up in race 1. He got caught up in that incident. He was P11, so literally mid-pack. So it's very easy for that to happen. And, Baku, there's so many corners that are blindsides. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's tricky in that kind of sense, especially in the midfield, alone the kind of front and the back.
Teammate Mardu, we said it at the start of the race, at the start of the show. He loves these street circuits. He seems to do well at these street circuits. And boy, did he. P3 on the podium. I think that's his first podium in not the GP series. So fantastic result for him. He's going to be starting in the back, but he does love his last of first challenges, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, being a YouTuber, he loves those, so he can get a good title of that, actually, I guess, in the video coming from this race too, knowing him. So, yeah, we'll see about that. I'm sure he got some good encouragement from Lando, I'm sure, during that race for the engineer role, because Lando retired quite early on. Let's see how long Lando lasts in this race. It just seems that him and the F1 game just don't gel very well. I kind of almost want to invite him to F1 Race Stars. Maybe that might be his domain more. So, Lando, if you fancy it, I'm a master in that game, so maybe that's something we can work out in the future. But, yeah, those two sign at other ends of the spectrum. So honestly, Hayden, I'm going to make a prediction. I reckon those two McLarens might meet in the middle somewhere at this point in the race.
Okay, that will be very interesting. Just going to completely cancel out what you said about F1 Race Stars. We both know I beat you at the end of the day, so don't even mention King of F1 Race Stars. Matty from WTF1, fantastic job for him. I mean, it was a good qualifying session. I think he got himself in like P6 or something like that in qualifying, and then P8 in the race. Good result for him, and making up for the disaster that was Monaco last time out.
Yeah, I think he's made up for Monaco. He was upset about how lack of pace he had at Monaco, and he's made up for it at Baku. And now he's got a bit more to do, a bit more challenging second race to make his way through the field. But he showed some decent racecraft to be battling Ragnathan earlier on in that race, and got the move done eventually and kept that and held that position. And like Andy said, I think before, I think he had to pit twice potentially, or just had an issue in that race. Actually pushed him back further, because I thought he was going to be around where Jimmy was. So if he did have an issue, he would have been up there with Jimmy, and obviously Jimmy was very impressive in that race, so I think we could have been applauding Matt just as much, really. So I'm expecting another decent race from him. Actually, he seems to have taken to Baku a lot better than Monaco for sure.
Well, he's going to be starting down in, I think, 12th or 13th. So there's a great opportunity with other people getting caught up in incidents. If he just keeps it clean, having your front wing here will definitely help you out a bit around the circuit. The downforce is really affected if you do have a small incident. But a lot of people don't really know his racing background, because a lot of them have probably started following him since the WTF1 days, so didn't know that he comes from a league racing background. So he is actually really quick.
Yeah, he's got that raw pace. He used to be very, very quick when he used to practice every day. It's a case of practice. Matt hasn't competitively raced or even played the F1 game regularly for like the last 2-3 years, because he's been so busy with content, obviously. So when you just lose that practice, case in point with the esports drivers, they're the opposite. They practice all the time. So it really is just a case of putting in the hours. So he's picked it up, unsurprisingly, quite quickly. Back again, he's already getting to the groove and probably already definitely finding that enjoyment of racing other people competitively again.
I've just been told in my ear that we're having a few issues getting everyone in the lobby. It's quite surprising from these drivers, a lot of them race loads. You would expect them to be quick, but it seems like they're a bit slow getting into the lobbies at the moment. But once they are, we will get underway for our reverse grid race. What are you looking forward to most in this race coming up? What's going to be the highlight potentially, or the one to watch in this race?
The one to watch, I think, honestly, is going to be if Lando and Charles can stay out of trouble. Honestly, I think that's it. If I'm being brutally honest here, lads, they might come for me after watching this stream, but it's to see if they don't have any incidents, because Charles is a very messy race and day today, and obviously had a massive kerfuffle with Latifi. So hoping the F1 driver can, just pull it out of the bag and, actually be okay around here. And then maybe I reckon, I have a feeling James and Chem are just going to do a madness, and they're just going to slice their way through like a hot knife through butter. And they're going to be around P5 by like lap, let's say, hey, I'm going to predict lap 3 or 4, I reckon. I think they're going to come through very quickly. Maybe some instance like you mentioned earlier in the mid-pack. Maybe, if someone gets held up, a little bit taken wide, they slip down the inside, around the outside. So that's my sort of prediction. One to watch is the 2 at the back and also the 2 at the front. And how Noel does as well. Noel Miller, obviously massive in the YouTube world. He maybe tactically crashed out that Grand Prix with his teammate Leclerc. So maybe the 2 Ferraris planned some sort of tactical, I don't know, like Leclerc goes charging forward. Noel maybe makes his car as wide as possible to try and block off, the classic Ferrari tactics maybe that we've seen in real life. So I don't know. There's plenty of things to watch out for either end of the spectrum on the grid.
Bold claim early on then. From lap 3, they're going to be up in the top half of the field. But I don't doubt it, because remember back to Not the Bar GP, Jemba Labassi was right at the back of the field. And I think it was like P5 after 4
I was
corners.
his teammate for that race.
That was incredible.
I was his teammate for that race. I was I was like, how have you done this? You're only 2 positions behind me now. You were literally 10 places back. So yeah, he did a madness at the Not Bar GP. And we've seen other drivers like Leclerc do that at Germany, slice their way through in only like 2 laps and get 10 positions. So it's not unheard of. And compared to other circuits, Baku, if you just get a great run, if others are so focused on each other down that main straight, you can just go under the radar, get like a triple toe, and then just make a triple overtake effectively and get the job done. So don't be surprised if we might see that. Hopefully we do. That's the whole point of the reverse race. Unlike in real life, we can do things like this to spice it up. And so we might see that instigated because of the reverse grid.
I've just seen a message come through. The reverse grid is getting away very shortly, so it's only going to be a couple of minutes now before we get into that race. Let's talk quickly, last point, about the front 2 runners. Obviously, you've got Charles Leclerc, you've got Lando Norris. We both know that they are quick around here. Lando qualified, I think, 3rd coming in or 4th coming into this race. Charles has won many of these, not the GP, virtual GP races. So what do those 2 have to do? To the front, or just follow each other until the end and then sort of work out, is it an odd number of laps or an even number of laps before they try and get the DRS on each other till the end?
Well, that's what you'd hope for if they want to be at the front, but something tells me they're just going to go for it and they're just going to fight, and inevitably a front wing's going to meet a wall or something like that. It's just going to happen. Just with the F1 drivers, I think, they've had a lot of fun with the virtual racing. They're just, like I said before, they go for moves that maybe they can't go for physically in real life because it's too much of a risk reward, whereas in the game they can do. So they're just enjoying having a nice battle. Hopefully we could see a cool side-by-side like we saw with Chem and James, but of course many times, unfortunately, with Lando's just got unlucky with the incidences, or either through his own fault or the game's fault. So we'll see. They've come towards in the virtual GPs, let alone the Veloce ones. So it's gonna be interesting to see. But in an ideal world for them, they'll work together. But I highly doubt that, Hayden.
Well, I'm going to let you have a little breather before you get into the race, because obviously you're going to be in the commentary box. So I'm going to call over to Andy and just get a quick little prediction of what you think could happen going into this race.
Well, I think as you guys have been touching on, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think seeing those guys come through the field will be interesting. The likes of, James and Chem Bassi. How far do they get? Will they get right up to the likes of Charles and Lando? That's the big question. Are they going to be that much quicker that they can get that far up the field? And I think it's a bit of an unknown this one to see who's actually going to win it, Hayden. So I'm not putting any predictions out because I've got no idea. I think it's going to be quite an exciting race and it's going to be very tight.
It's a very difficult one to call because whilst there are very easy overtaking opportunities, it's also very easy to just knock a little bit of your front wing off, whether you touch a wall or you touch a driver in front. So it's going to be difficult for the guys starting at the back to work their way through, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we saw already, haven't we, with Charles Leclerc coming through, looked like it was going to plan, got himself up to 12th after 2 laps, and then there was an accident in front of him, and boom, he's involved in it. So, 3 F1 drivers on the spot in a lot of trouble. So, it's all about just picking your way through, make sure you don't get involved in any incident. But, it's so difficult. Me and Adam were speaking about it there in commentary. We lost, 6-7 cars from that race. We didn't have that in Monaco, but it's just the way, it's just something about Baku. You need to take serious risks in some of these corners to get rewarded. And and then of course you get the castle section, which is extremely tight as well. So I'll be interested to see how it pans out. But a lot of it is going to be down to luck and how the cars get off the grid. But it looks like we are finally underway for the formation lap, and we're about to get things underway. Adam, hopefully you're back with me. What do you think going into this one then? How's it looking?
Well, we've got Billy Monger in pole position, JD in P2, Chris Lake third. So that's a very interesting front. And then you've got, as Ranganathan has left the session, so he's had an incident before the session has even began, potentially. So we've got eye contrast also. So I don't know, there's a few connectivity issues there. But we've got Lando in P4, and then we've got Leclerc in P5. So those two, we're wanting a quick start, as we've now got Matt leading the session. So I'm not too sure if maybe this might warrant a session restart potentially, Andy. A lot of people are leaving potentially, I think.
Yeah, everyone seems to be leaving the session. Chris Lake as well. That's now up to 5 drivers, I think, we've lost. So we'll have to wait and see. I've not heard anything in my ear regarding a potential restart at the minute. So we'll have to wait and see what does happen. But at the minute, we are still good to go. So we'll keep an eye out. I'll have a look, see if I've got any messages. And we are restarting the lobby. We've just been told now we are going to have a restarted lobby. So, we'll have to wait just a little bit longer before we wait and see how this race will unfold. But,
we're going to have to restart. So now they were ready for the race. Now they've got to restart themselves up, basically, Andy. But I was going to say with Lando and Charles, P4 and 5, they're not as high as I thought they would because we've had a bit of a rearrange of the grid because I think with JD being out, his AI was the one that finished the race. So he's been moved back up there. So now I'm going to change my prediction from what I said to Hayden, Andy, is I think JD has a very good chance of winning this entire thing now, honestly, because he's an esports driver. He's a very quick driver and he's right at the front now. Yeah,
well, it's a very good point you make with JD right up there. He's definitely, you'd think, have the pace over the likes of Leclerc and Lando. But we've seen already that the likes of JD have been battling with Lando Norris. Certainly with Charles Leclerc back in Germany, didn't he, when he won that race? And Leclerc didn't make it easy for him. That was quite the battle. So who knows if Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris can have a clean race. They might be in there to the end of the Grand Prix. And we'll just have to wait and see if the likes of James and Shem can come up through and join that battle. But, as we touched on already with how easy it is to get involved in incidents, it's going to be a real tough challenge for them to do that. And of course, they're going to need a wee bit of luck as well to try and come through unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, with the reverse grid, it's always quite difficult anyway, just having people come through. But being Baku, it just invites, you've got such a tight corner. I mentioned it with Hayden, you got so many blind corners as well. So it's hard to tell when an incident happens. Where, I think we saw with me and you saw with Lando when he got caught up. He had probably no idea that Williams was half span round. Then you just go straight in, T-bone crash. So there's a high possibility that happens again. So that's something that they have to be all wary of and be alert of. The dynamic in the middle, though, is going to be really interesting because you've got a lot of drivers that are pretty decent. They're just in the middle. So the drivers that are maybe trying to come through behind them are going to maybe find that more difficult, perhaps. And then you've got maybe some of the slower drivers that are at the front. They're all going to be catching those slower drivers. So they're all going to just basically converge on each other. So like we've seen before with the Germany reverse race we had, that was an absolute corker. And towards the end of that, we were running out of breath, Andy, at that race. So hopefully the more of the same again at Baku, unlike what we had with Monaco, which is a bit of a different dynamic, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we've seen already in this race, Baku, despite it being a street track, plenty of overtaking, plenty of action. We've seen that in race 1 already. I felt in race 1, the field spread got a little bit more than perhaps we'd like. We still saw plenty of action. Let's hope this time round it'll be, brought in a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll have to wait and see how things pan out.
Yeah, well, now the grid thing's going to form up very soon. And we're going to go to race 2 finally, eventually. So apologies for the long wait if you're watching and wondering what is occurring. Of course, we had some few connectivity issues to go through. Okay,
now I'm hearing that the server has gone down, so we're not going to race 2 yet. So we're going to continue with this pause as things stand. So we'll have to wait and see what the plan is. But at the minute, the server's gone down. We're going to be waiting a little bit longer, unfortunately, folks. So apologies for that. But Hayden, let's bring you back in on this one. Just a little bit of a pause here at the minute before we get things underway. Is there anyone else that we maybe haven't mentioned yet that is going to catch your eye in this second race?
Well, just before we get into that, just to go over what you just said again. It is the F1 servers or the Steam servers, the online servers are currently down at the moment, which means that everybody has connection issues. So it's not just one person. Everybody can't connect to the race just of yet. We're going to get updates and see whether it gets underway. We might potentially pull in a couple of people for interviews at this stage between races, just to fill in the gap at the moment whilst we wait for things to fix themselves. But unfortunately, it's completely out of our control, completely out of our hands. And that's just the problems that you get when you've got so many different people in so many different countries around the world racing against each other. But it looks like a few invites might be getting sent out at the moment, so we'll keep you updated on when it comes back. But to answer your question, who am I sort of looking forward to seeing in this race? I'm not too sure. Maybe see how Billy Monger does. If he can get into this lobby this time. We didn't see him in qualifying. We didn't see him in the race in the first one. So it'd be interesting to see how well he can go in this race. And I've seen his setup in one of his live streams, and it is an incredible setup. Unfortunately, he had an accident a few years ago, which means that he does most of the steering and the clutch and the driving with just his hands. And it is absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah, but it's incredible, isn't it? I imagine having to do that. I mean, I'd like to give it a go, but it must be so difficult. You know, it's such a crazy situation to try and drive like that. But I mean, I'm excited to see how he gets on because, as you say, and he's an unknown quantity. We haven't seen him in any of the events so far, and unfortunately, we never really got to see him in qualifying or the race. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there. Hopefully, he can perform well, and of course, he'll be starting up at the front of the field. So yeah, I'm excited to see if he can charge from the front and hopefully try and get a strong result.
He really will be at the front. If we can get him in, just get a few updates. It looks like they're going to be getting a few people for interviews, so I'll let you guys know who we get in. But, Andy, we've still got this reverse grid race, hopefully, if it goes on. You know, we've seen so many of these before, and they always do throw up drama. So we're going to be expecting more of the same, surely, when we get going once again.
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw in Germany, you know, it was crazy, wasn't it? We had so many different strategies going on. If you remember all the way back then, TRL Limitless, I think he went pitted really early or pitted really late. I can't remember. And he pitted early, went on to a set of hard tyres. And we saw me and Arav and we're like, is he in this battle or is he just joining for the fun of it? And it turns out he was in the battle. He was genuinely there. He was clinging on. And, you know, he ended up coming out the victor in what was a great race. We had great action in Spa as well in race 2 and in Monaco too. When we had the reverse top 10, it provided some great action as well. So, yeah, be sure to stick around, folks, because the reverse race always gives us plenty of excitement. And we almost saw snippets of that in race 1 with the top drivers being out of position early on. But, you know, because of there'd been such a field spread early on, we never really got to see it as we'd like. So with the field properly condensed up on the grid and the top drivers trying to come through, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. I'm looking forward to it, Hayden, if it does get underway.
Well, this track is very similar to the likes of Spa for its high speed, but then also Monaco because the barriers are so close to you. So it's going to have a bit of best of both. But Monaco, we saw the guys so close to each other, especially in the final phase. So if we do get underway, then it's going to be interesting to see the battles that we could have. As it sounds like we've got some interviews ready. Not too sure who we've got coming in at the moment, but I'll keep you updated on that. But we will be having an interview with a couple of people. It's going to be Tiamat Marduk and Jimmy Broadbent. Are you in the call at the moment? They are not in the call. Okay, they're not in the call at the moment, but we will get them in a sec, and I'll let you know. But they had good races, didn't they? Tiamat Marduk and Jimmy Broadbent. Third for Tiamat Marduk, fifth for Jimmy, after coming back from P11. So we've got them in the call now. So Ben, Jimmy, great race in the first race today. Jimmy from P11 up to P5. And Ben, first taste of the podium in Not the GP. How was the race from your perspective, starting with you, Ben?
It was pretty hectic. Got the jump on Lando at the start, and then we were jostling for position. I got very lucky because Nick was squeezing us both out, and then I think Lando and Nick had their own issue, and I squeezed into the tightest gap, and then from there I was just kind of cruising home to P3 in the end, and I caught up to Jimmy, but then he pitted, so that was the end of that.
Yeah, Jimmy, how was the race from you? Obviously P11 to P5, a lot of battles surely coming through the field.
You know what it felt like? When it's like an earthquake, right? And then like, the building falls down around you, and then somehow you're still standing. You're like, oh, okay. and that pretty much describes how I got P5. I thought I'd start on the mediums just because I did some testing on the soft, and it's terrible around here. It just goes off so quickly. So I thought, well, start medium, go soft. It kind of worked out, I think. So.
Were you behind the incident that saw Latifi go round? Was that in front of you, or did you manage to get through that before that happened?
I think that was at T2, right? Because I came round the corner and Lando was like reversing.
Oh, really? Okay.
The way of the circuit. So that was a bit of an odd view, and I just kind of closed my eyes and went through it, and it was okay. So
we saw you have a nice battle as well with eye contrast. It's safe to say this game, when you first jumped onto it for not the OzGP and also the virtual GPs that you started doing, it wasn't a game that you were particularly suited to. You're more suited to sim racing, but it's been obvious that you have improved so much over the last few races. How's it been from your point of view, getting better at this game and to be able to battle now for the top 5 positions?
I mean, that's entirely down to Daniele, who had the Race Esports. He's Racing Point Esports driver. He's been so patient with me. He's like a little, it's like a big brother, Daniele. He's very, very talented, and he's taught me the tip tricks. I'm still a bit of a way off, but I'm kind of hoping just to wear it down with consistency as opposed to actually being fast, because I can't do that one. So I'll just try and be consistent. And it goes okay in the end.
Well, we've seen you getting closer to Team at Marduk. And Ben, are you expecting maybe possibly at some point battle with Jimmy in one of these races?
I think so. Like, Jimmy will always, be humble, but he's definitely improved over his, lifespan of playing the F1 games. He's chipping away, he's getting closer, he's getting all the tips from the fast boys. So if this kept going, we would definitely be meeting in the middle somewhere. So who knows, next week or whatever. Have to practice even more.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens between the two of you as the races go on. Who are you looking forward to most battling in these races? When you sign up to them, who takes your eye that you want to battle with the most?
The F1 drivers, I guess.
Yeah.
I probably been interested at all, and then I saw this that Benjamin Daly was taking part, and now I'm finally getting into it. I put hours of practice. So, no, I mean, just to race any of these guys is a massive honour. We've gone from, especially Ben, bigger F1 fan, I think, going from just being YouTube plebs to getting to talk to these guys and race them. It's always.
Well, it was a fantastic race from both of you today. Arav, before we go and leave these two, have you got any questions for them?
Well, it was going to be interesting to see if they were going to meet in the middle of race number 2. But Ben, I wanted to know, it was Lando in your ear again in that race 1 once he DNF'd?
Yeah, he was saying some stuff here and there, but I think he was keeping a close eye on Mahiva, because he was an interesting character out there, but also trying to put off Chem in the whole battle against James Baldwin.
So that's
we're kind of
good teamwork there. So you're already gelling well as teammates.
Yeah, just trying to get the best result possible, Just got to pull out the YouTube championship straps. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both for a great performance in race 1. We're going to have to end the interviews there, unfortunately, but I hope that you both have enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you on the grid once again.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
It's been fun.
So, Arab, before we round up, unfortunately, it's been confirmed that race 2 has been cancelled, which is such a shame because we always look forward to these reverse grid races, but I'm sure we'll be back to entertain people at home once again. Just to clarify the reasons for it again, the servers are unfortunately down, meaning that no one can race online at the moment. So that is completely out of our hands, completely out of our control, and it means that nobody can race right now. But one quick word from you, Arab. What has been your highlight from today's first race?
It was just James v. Chem, the last 3 laps. It was really worth it to see that, at least. That was some great racing, so thankful we got to see that at least today. Sadly, no race 2, but that was entertainment nonetheless. That was great to see around Baku.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me and also joining Andy in the commentary box. Andy, thank you for joining us as well. That is going to do for Not the GP. Unfortunately, it comes to an early end, but we will be back when Not the GP returns. Well done, Baku.